I'd never heard of an Archon, but I was definitely familiar with what I conceptualized as evil. And that always been a question sort of rolling around in my mind, as I think most people contemplate good and evil. And it's sort of ingrained in us in our society around the devil and God, and heaven and hell. And I never prescribed to that idea, that concept of heaven and hell. Even growing up in a religious household, I was just, I don't know, it didn't really stick with me. It just seemed like a story, like Santa Claus. I could see through it. I was like, I think there's something different going on here. So when I was introduced to the concept of Archons through The Last Avatar, it was sort of a new spin on it, like, oh, like this parasitic creature that has no soul, that wants to come in and feed off of negative energy. Was certainly an entertaining concept, but I still didn't really entertain it that far. It's not like I believe in them, but it gave me a different concept for understanding that duality of good and evil. And so how I frame it now in my life is through the lens of expressed and unexpressed life force. That's kind of how I see it now. And I'm working on it because this is always a question. I ponder questions like, is there leadership without abusive power? Can there be, man in charge, powerfully and compassionately leading a nation, leading a world, understanding, the depth of stewardship on earth? And of course, Tolkien talks a lot about that and brings it up in our culture. And so we have all of these movies around, Joseph Campbell's idea of the hero with 1,000 faces. Like, we stand up and we stand for good and we banish the evil. And that's the story, And it looks like we're never going to win. But we do. David and Goliath. This goes back so far. So we've been sort of wrestling with this theme of good and bad and the forces that come over and corrupt one once they have a certain level of influence or power. And certainly growing up in this day and age and in this sort of political climate, I'm at a point where I'm just looking at everything from as many different angles as I possibly can. Is this person actually evil? Do I believe in absolute evil? Or is this person working from an agenda? Is it karmic? There's just so many avenues that you can look at how life force expresses itself specifically through humans in power once you start governing other people and gaining wealth and resources. So I like the idea because in a sense it sort of separates it from me. Oh, I could never be evil. It's just this entity that's trying to suck my life force, which is kind of a fun thing. But I also like the idea of really just claiming it as what it is. It's an unexpressed part of nature itself. It's almost like a natural conclusion to uninitiated power. It's when someone reaches a point and is given a certain amount of sway or influence, but isn't connected enough to be able to handle it in a mature and enlightened way. And which is a really great sort of segue into the light body around how do you deal with the Archons? How do you deal with these negative thoughts that come in? How do you deal with so much negative influence that's happening all around us and still stay positive, stay hopeful, stay compassionate? It's so easy to just kind of put your shields on because it's just another war, it's just another killing, it's just another, oil dump. It's really intense. It's so intense to be awake and alive right now. You can be alive and sort of numbed and, insulated and guarded and all that, but are you really alive? You're not. And I think that's what the fascination we have with zombies is, which is a whole nother aspect. I've never been into zombies because I don't get it. It's not my thing. But so many people are into this concept of zombies. Zombies are coming to take over. Ha ha ha, isn't it funny? We're killing them all. It's just like, what? And I really feel like that's a whole nother subconscious sort of cop-out. To be like, well, I'm not going to deal with the pain. I'm just going to sort of gloss over it. So how to be awake on the planet without armoring, without escaping, without insulating, without becoming, a jaded, very angry, resentful person. Because there's all this life force energy that wants to be expressed. And when you're aware of it and when you're sensitive to it, it can really be overwhelming. So, there's so many different practices. Every person has their own path to staying clear.
Pushing against the